Hello and welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester and thank you for joining us for episode 151. Tonight we're going to give you our review of Wolves' 1-1 draw at Everton, talk about our 6-1 win against Shrewsbury Town, give our player and match analysis on that, take some of your questions and look ahead to Sunday afternoon's game against Newcastle United. Delighted to have our captain as also. Good evening, Nocky, unbeaten in 2026. Look at that smile. And also delighted to welcome back, I think, for his 10th cap, BBC WM's Daz Hale. Good evening, Daz.
Good evening. I need a clap.
We'll get you one for making double figures. Nocky's on, I think, about 132. So, yeah, we're absolutely flying. Last midweek, Wolverhampton Wanderers went to Everton. It was a 1-1 draw, but the score wasn't the whole story. Your take, Daz, on Everton 1, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1.
Another step in the right direction for me. Now, I was watching this game on the feed back at the studio, so I've got them on the big screen, and obviously, even in the first half, when we didn't really create much, they got their goal and they hit the post. Even then, I thought we look a lot more settled and a lot more composed and a lot tidier than we had done. Without really creating anything. I think it was interesting. Rob Edwards said he was really unhappy with that first 45. Right? Even I know it's a low bar from what we've been used to, but even watching that, I just thought, well, we actually don't look out of our depth anymore. And then obviously when we pushed on, stepped onto the game in the second half, great goal to equalise. And then you do think when they go down to 9 men, we'd be like 9 minutes of added time. You're thinking, well, this is a real chance now for us to go on and win it, but being Wolves fans, you also think, yeah, if any team's going to lose to 9 men, so I'd have certainly taken the point before the game. So again, it just felt like it was another step, another bit of progress for me overall.
Yeah, Nocky, it was. I mean, it's a point we'd have all taken, like Daz says, it's the step in the right direction. But I mean, we're going to talk about the goals and the incidents in the game as well. But I want to give Rob Edwards some credit. And I know and I'm with Rob. I didn't think, although Wolves were solid and compact in the first half, it wasn't the Wolves performances we'd seen of late. But he acknowledged that and he made the changes and he switched it up. And I think you really have to respect that. Take a player off that's had a big impact, change it at half time, solid it up, puts the 2 Brazilians back in midfield. And it just changed the game. So credit to the manager for turning it round for what looked like, for me, I know what Daz was saying, Wolves were in the game, but I thought Wolves were second best in that first half.
Yeah, I mean, they hit the post, they had the goal. They could arguably have took the game away from us. We were okay. We looked okay in the game, but we just weren't carrying much of a threat. And there was perhaps a little bit more, I don't know if it was nervousness, but we just weren't quite as sharp as we had been in the last couple of away games. And I didn't go in there expecting to get anything out of the game, but recent performances tell us that we're going to be quite competitive. And although we were okay, we weren't much of a threat. And when he made the change at half time, I was a little bit, well, I don't understand why he's done that, because I'm not sure the 2 Brazilians work together, but it totally changed the dynamic of the game. We were on the front foot. We put them under some real pressure. We moved the ball a lot quicker. We got into space. And Mane, we'll talk about the goal, I'm sure, which was magnificent. I think what I was really impressed about him was that he didn't have a great deal of impact in the game. He wasn't really involved heavily, but then it was almost like a bit of a Steve Ball moment, what he used to do, where he could be not in the game for 89 minutes, just bang one into the top corner. It was that kind of moment. He wasn't affecting it, but a moment of quality, and he gets us a goal. And I wasn't disappointed at all coming out the ground at 1-1. I was more than happy with that. Obviously, you want to go and win football matches, but I think we all know the situation we're in at the minute. It was just nice to have something else to build from. So I came out really positive, and then the 47-mile walk back to the car before we could get home again wasn't quite so bad. But it was a good day, and it was nice to see them perform the way they did in the second half. And you've absolutely got to give credit to Rob Edwards, because when he came in, I was relatively sure that Wolves would finish with less points than Derby County did, and I wasn't even convinced that we'd win a game. Whereas now I feel like we've got a team that are organised, they're solid, the players on the pitch, it feels like they want to be there. And he's created a little bit of a hard to beat and almost a siege mentality in the team at the moment. And it's impressive to see. And bringing Mane and Tolu in has made a massive change for us. And, it's another point. We're unbeaten. We move on. It was a really good day.
I just don't think we don't look out of our depth anymore.
No.
Which we did for the vast majority of the first half of the season. And a few of the players beginning to find their feet now. I think there's a little bit more confidence, a little bit more belief. And I know we'll go on to the Shrewsbury game. There were even some smiles on faces. on Saturday, which, not just in the crowd, but on the pitch as well. And I do wonder how much of an impact Rui Silva's had as well, because I know that Rob's still putting his backroom team together up until the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I think he arrived in the week that Jeff Shee went. It almost went under the radar a little bit. But when you look at his pedigree, and obviously having been Nuno's right-hand man previously at Wolves, and obviously Rob Edwards was part of that team as well in the academy, and then worked with Nuno at Forest, I do wonder how big an impact he's having as well, because obviously he's a bit more of an experienced sounding board for Rob Edwards to go to as well, a bit like Adi Vivash had been for him at Middlesbrough. Rui Silva's got, Premier League experience, hasn't he, as a coach?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And again, a bit of tongue-in-cheek here, guys, but I'm not sure how much of a positive impact it's had, but since Mr. Shee has left the club, things have seemed to have got better off it. Now, that might just be a coincidence, and there's a hell of a lot of making up and work to do on it. But let's focus what matters on the pitch. Everton took the lead, as you said, Nocky, post. It could have been 2-0 at half-time, but second half, Wolves really got back into the game, and I really liked the freedom of having Mane and the two Brazilians sort of tucked in there. Sort of for me, in the first half, he sort of got a bit stuck on the defensive duties, in like almost being a centre midfielder, whereas having the two centre midfielders in the second half behind him to protect almost freed him up to allow him what he does best.
Yeah, it works for him, doesn't it? He's a clever player. He kind of tiptoes into space and he reads the game really well. And his first touch, it's one of the best first touches I've seen of a player, especially of his age. He's just so controlled and he's playing beyond his years. And he's got that lovely arrogance about him that he deserves to be there and he knows he deserves to be there. And you've got to have that little bit of the devil about you if you want to make it at this level. So he worked really well. The two Brazilians worked well. I felt we were dangerous in the wing-back positions as well, which we haven't always been. Tolu, although he didn't have too many opportunities, he was always a problem for them. He was engaging two very, very experienced centre-halves to the point where one of them makes a really stupid decision, ends up getting himself sent off. I thought Hugo Bueno coming in from the left was brilliant. That was one of his best performances. It's only a world-class save from Jordan Pickford, which has stopped him from scoring. There were so many positives to take from the game, and you're always going to find negatives, especially when you're in our position. And we didn't defend set pieces or crosses into our area particularly well all night. But I think the positives absolutely outweigh the negatives, which, as Dad said, we've not been in that position for most of the season. We were competitive. We were in the game. We're not a team that gets rolled over now the way that we were earlier on in the season. When you think about the Leeds game and even closer to that with Brentford, those kind of games where we just haven't turned up and we haven't been competitive, you feel like teams have got to work to beat Wolves now. And the fans will back the team if the team put in performances like that. I mean, we haven't won away from home nearly 9 months. It's a sellout on a Wednesday night and it's a nightmare of a ground to get to. But the fans are there, they're backing them, they're singing. We've got a point against 9 men. There was no booing at full time. Every Wolves fan stayed there, clapped them and appreciated the efforts they put in. That's all we want to see as supporters. So there was so many positives to take and there's so many building blocks for us now, which is just not a position we've been in all season.
One of the positive points, other than obviously the point, Daz, was for me, again, the character. Like, I really thought Wolves were second best. I thought Everton, typical job at Everton away. They're physical, they're strong, they're bullying you. But again, like at Man United, like unfortunately at Arsenal, when they didn't get anything in the end, Wolves have come back from a losing position and finishing the stronger at the end of the game.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think we've seen it. The performance at Villa Park as well. Even when Villa scored, Wolves still finished the game strongly. And if you want to be ultra glass half full, we won the second half at Anfield. Again, we looked so much more solid defensively, and to concede those 2 goals within a blink of an eye on Boxing Day, I think it was. And at that point, I was thinking, this is going to be the day where we get absolutely mullered here now. It's going to be 5 or 6. But actually, again, second half there, like we did in the league last year, funnily enough, we took the game to them and we were unlucky not to lose. So whereas before we'd concede, and then you could see it in the body language. They'd just like drop their heads and it's like we're beaten. They've got a little bit more about it now, and that's credit to them because it's still the same players. And I do wonder, I think Matt Doherty's speech, it could have gone one or two ways, saying we want to have courage, not cowardice. But it seems to have galvanised everybody. And at the moment, so it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but at least now, when they're up against it, there's a little bit more resilience, a little bit more word character. And let's face it, they're used to conceding goals. They're used to going behind in matches because they've done it pretty much every week, all season. But the reaction to it now is a lot more positive. And again, building blocks, as Nocky said.
What's changed, Dennis? What do you think's changed? Because we've gone from a team that were not competitive at all and we're on for a record points tally, and suddenly now we're resilient and we're stronger, we look better, we're harder to beat. What do you think the change is?
I think it's down to having a manager and a coaching staff who have been able to work with them and build a structure with them and get them put in square pegs in square roles. And I think that's the start. And then we start getting performances, and then it's getting that first result, isn't it? Now, not necessarily the first win, but the first result, the first point, which was at was it Old Trafford, was it? And then so again, that gives them something to build on, and it's momentum now and confidence and belief. And I don't think there's quite so many of them now with imposter syndrome. It could also be as well that some of these players who were all parachuted in together at one go. Now, if 3 or 4 of them had been coming to a team of seasoned professionals and players knew what they're doing, we might have had a struggle this season, but we probably wouldn't be on 1 point or whatever it was for 2 points. They'd have probably been able to absorb it, and we might have been in a relegation battle, but we wouldn't have been cast adrift. The fact that it was pretty much the whole team was just thrown in there, a bunch of kids from a foreign country. If we'd have got the win at Tottenham, it might have been completely different, but we didn't. And so eventually they became broken, didn't they? And obviously there was all sorts of chaos going on behind the scenes. So it may be something as well that some of these players have actually now, after 6 months or whatever it is, have just started to bed in and get used to the demands, not just the physical demands and the tactical demands, but the mental demands as well of playing in the Premier League. So it could be all sorts of factors.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it is, it's clicked. I mean, there's like Rui Silva, we mentioned about that, Jeff departing, we mentioned that. Players like happens in like traditional way in the army, people have to be completely broken before you fix them. There might be that. There might have been the realization where we've got nothing to lose now. Who knows? But whatever it is, and Wolves are probably going to get relegated though. I feel like I'm going to watch my team play for me again now. I feel like they're all on the same page, and like if they're giving that and they lose, you can accept that. And I don't believe that was happening before, whether they weren't buying into the old manager, whether they're buying into the new. Something's changed. And Daz makes a really good point regarding Doherty, because that could have gone one or two ways. Since then, Nocky, it does feel, I mean, I know me and you were very much pro that time, not so much, but equally all entitled to our opinions. I do feel that since Doc called it out, I do feel there's been an incremental improvement.
I think so, but I think you've mentioned other facts as well, haven't you? Jeff's gone, Rui Silva coming in. I mean, it's frustrating because if the season starts now, I think Wolves probably stay up, and I think they'll probably stay up relatively comfortably as well, because I do think there's some quality now in that squad. But I think momentum's such an important thing, and Daz touched on it. We had a bit of momentum now. I think the important thing for us is we're in the mindset that we're going to go down. I think that unless something miraculous happens, we are going to get relegated. But if we can get relegated with some momentum behind us, if we can finish the season strongly, take some wins with us, and we carry some form into the Championship, you give yourself a chance. My worry was we get relegated without winning a game, we'd finish on 7-8 points, and then you carry that into next season. You're in a real risk of a double dip, then, aren't you? And obviously, we don't know what the squad's going to look like, but momentum's such a massive factor. And if they can just finish the season strongly, and you take it incrementally, don't you? Let's beat Derby's record first, then can we catch Burnley? Then can we catch the team above them? And then you just try and look at little wins along the way to see where we can finish and what we can achieve for the rest of the season. But if we can just go to games and not expect to get hammered, then you've got to start, haven't you?
They've got 17 matches to go. So if they can average a point a game over those 17 matches, it won't be enough to keep them up. But again, it's that whole point of progress. And we were even saying that it wasn't a free pass for Rob Edwards. If they kept on getting beaten every week, then quite rightly, at some point, they'd have had to make a decision, because you've got to show improvement. Now, this is just with the same group of players at the moment. So, yeah, I'm absolutely with you that they need to keep progressing between now and the end of the season. If you think back to the last couple of seasons, that's where the rot set in. And even under Vita Pereira, now I know we won the 6 games on the spin and we got the cigars and slippers out, but the last 4 or 5 matches again were dreadful. Managed to scrape a point against Brentford. But that poor momentum, downward momentum, even continued into pre-season, where people say pre-season results don't matter. No, they don't, but the performances do. And they were absolutely toilet all pre-season as well, performances. So if you can finish on a high, finish with a bit of momentum, it'll help with season ticket sales as well. And
it'll help the fan base get behind the manager as well.
Yeah, and talking of, by the way, I mean, I did pick up on this on the football phone. I know the Shrewsbury chairman had a chunter about the prices. Well, look at the crowd, 25,000. The fact they've gone kids for £1 against Bournemouth, it never did happen, and it would never have happened under Jeff Shee. So this new hierarchy straight away of reading the room, looking at the economic climate, looking at the league table and going, all right, kids for £1 for this one, knowing that it wouldn't have been a sellout otherwise. So that gives me a little bit of encouragement. Maybe it's false, we will see, regarding the season ticket prices this summer. If they've acknowledged now that you can't keep charging people that sort of money to watch what is going to a substandard product at the moment, then hopefully, to coin the phrase that Johnny Phillips never used, the penny may have dropped on, in that instance. So hopefully that might give us a little bit of good news in the summer regarding season ticket prices as well. Hopefully they'll be a bit more realistic.
This is episode 151 of the Wolves Report, BBC WM's Daz Hale, our club captain Mark Knock, and myself, Ryan Lester. Let's get back to the game, Knocky. We'll talk about the goal a little bit later on, but the main incident, sort of the flare point for me, was the Keane, as you can see on the graphic there, for those who are watching. Unfortunately, those who are listening, there's a picture of Michael Keane clearly pulling the back of Tolu's hair. Guys, for me, the rules are quite clear. It's quite simple. That is not a picture of a man who's grabbing a shirt. It's not a picture of a man who's attempting to grab a shirt. That's a man who is intending on pulling. You see the way Tolu went down. He's 6'6". He's massively strong. He went down. He was upset afterwards. Knocky, this is the clear as clear red card for me.
I don't understand why they're so unhappy about it. And David Moyes as well. I don't get why he's so frustrated. There's been Everton fans I've been talking to on Twitter. Some have been calmer, you can have a conversation. Some have just been furious about the whole thing, but they all collectively don't think it's a red card. And I just can't get my head around it. I think we all see things through tinted glasses every now and then when it comes to our team. But for you to think that's not a red card when you've got a handful of air, I mean, look at his neck there. That's not a natural position for his neck. And you could see the way he levers him down. But my biggest frustration with this has been in the stand. I didn't have a clue what was going on because we didn't see this at the time. There was just an announcement that VAR were checking an incident, but none of us knew what was going on and no one knew who was getting sent off. And it was only when the report, he did his little speech and said that he was sent off for violent conduct, and then they put the replay on. So none of us in the stand had a clue what was going on because it was pretty innocuous at that point. But it's a red card, isn't it? And you've got to be realistic. I think Hwang could have walked as well. I wouldn't have been against it if that had been a red card. But this one here, that's certainly a red card. And anyone arguing that, you probably need to give your head a little bit of a wobble because you just can't do that in the modern game. If you did that in the workplace, grab someone's hair and pulled it, you'd expect to be punished, wouldn't you? So the fact they think they can do that on a football pitch, I find it bizarre.
Well, listen, you and Daz will be okay. But Daz...
Depends which hair they're pulled.
I beg your pardon. This is a family show.
Yes, I'm talking about.
Daz, this is... For me, I just don't understand. For me, I think this is a really cowardly challenge. But now, if he's on his shoulders, you could kind of see. Now, this image is clear as clear can be. He's pulling his hair. I just don't understand how anyone could
being
complain.
Played it. It's just classic deflection tactics by Moyes. He's wily old fox. Alex Ferguson would have done the same. His team have just drawn at home against the worst team in the Premier League at the moment, on target for the worst results total. They got beat 4 at home by Brentford a few days before. It's deflection tactics. That's all it was. He's been around the block. He knows what it's all about. But instead of throwing his players under the bus or taking any criticism himself, he's used that, and that's all it is. And I'm guessing perhaps quite a few Everton fans probably know that's what it is ultimately as well. But it's a get out of jail card for failing to beat the worst team in the league.
I mean, that's a fair point. I didn't think of it like that, but that's why you do what you do, and me and Nokia sit on and start shouting on our podcast. But that's a really, really good point. But Nokia, it wasn't the only red card of the game, and I did laugh a little bit at the one at the end of the game because Jack's head completely went. Now, I don't mind Jack Grealish. I know he gets booed, but I think overall, I think there's a good lad there. There's a tremendous footballer. but his header's completely gone at the end of the game, and that's, you don't usually see so much petulance from a guy who's now in his 30s. Really bizarre, but equally from a Wolves point of view, very amusing.
Yeah, I really like Jack Grealish as a person. I think he's a real good guy. Does a lot of stuff for charity. He comes across as a genuine lad. As a footballer, I can't stand him because every time we go near him, he's on the floor, he's rolling around, he's doing all of his antics. It was such a stupid way to get sent off, and if I was his manager, I'd be absolutely raging for that because it was so unnecessary. He gets a silly booking, and then he gets a foul. He's been awarded a decision, and he claps the referee, and you're going to walk for that, aren't you? You can't do that. So, as you say, for a player of his age to get caught out like that, I think it's probably a sign of the frustration because they went into that game knowing it's a massive opportunity for 3 points, and Wolves were better than they anticipated. And I think maybe the emotions got a little bit much for him, and he's reacted in a really negative way. And it was a bizarre second half actually, because it came from us at half time thinking going to struggle to get anything out of this one, to bombing on and getting all after them for the last sort of 20-25 minutes. So yeah, it was a bizarre game, but for me both decisions were right. Although I do think the referee was really poor on the day. These two decisions from the ref or VAR, whichever one you want to claim has made it, they're the right decisions, and I don't see how anyone can argue about that.
I mean, the second yellow for what we got. I like it, Dan.
19-1. There you go.
Isn't that a goal average of the last few games? Get in. But Daz, on a more positive note, we saw some magic from our young magician who's scored another fantastic goal. I mean, for me, this is something that doesn't happen enough. There's a run from wide in between the two centre-backs. You have to give credit for Strand Larsen because he's found the man. Credit to Strand Larsen. He's pinged it in. The first touch from Mane to take it between the two centre-backs, and he's caressed it in the far corner. The away end goes crazy. That's all 1-1.
He's special, isn't he? He's got a real talent, and people have talked about him for quite some time. And again, you've got to credit Rob Edwards and his staff. Obviously, Rob would be looking at, obviously, having managed in the academy before, and he's always keen to bring young players through. And it's the lad has absolutely hit the ground running, and he looks the real deal. But I think it's not just giving him a lift, it's giving the rest of his teammates a lift. Boy, oh boy, it's given the fans a lift. We've got a new hero. It's just his energy, his fearlessness. Whenever he gets the ball, the first thing he wants to do is be positive, to take players on. And you're right. I mean, he had a quiet game, and we were saying in the pre-match build-up that he's not a surprise anymore, and he's going to get a bit of rough stuff tonight, you know, with all the big boys, the Tarkovskis and the Kings and the like. And he did, but he stood his ground, kept going, and then you score a goal like that. And I think it was the right decision to maybe take him out the firing line at the weekend, just to give him a little bit of a breather. I know they brought him back on, but what a talent. And again, it's just galvanised everybody, hasn't it? And it's just like this real positive energy, and you can't help but think that we've unearthed something special here. Yeah,
real special talent, composed finish, fantastic celebration. I know Nocky spent half the night driving home, but well worth the trip, Nocky. Fair play to you. You got your just rewards. Let's go through the team where it finished. Everton 1, Wolves 1. Daz, Jose Sarr. I mean, it was busy first half, but I can't really recall him had anything to do in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have a fat lot to do. I mean, there's the set plays, and there's always that question of, you know, I like goalkeepers to be a bit more positive on crosses and the like, but he did nothing wrong, did he? I'd give him a steady 7 out of 10 on the night.
Yeah, solid. Not that busy. I think the post and the goal was busier than he was, but yeah, Nocky onto the back three of Yerson Mosquera, Santiago Bueno, and Ladislav Krejci.
They were all okay. You know, the goal, you can always find someone to blame for that. And I think the ball in the box over at the post from, I'm not sure it was a 3 centre half, you blame for not being able to get to that one. But I thought collectively they were pretty good. I mean, Yerson's got that chaos element about him that I think we're all falling in love with. Santi Bueno never lets you down when he's on the pitch, and Krejci's got a little bit of quality that the others probably haven't got. So they were all relatively solid. They're probably 6 or 7 across the board, I'd say. I don't think any of them did anything particularly wrong. And in the second half, they limited Everton to almost nothing, really. So
would you agree that they just seem a lot calmer?
They do.
Settled, that it's not rabbit in headlights when they do get the ball. Everything just seems just a little less.
Do you know what? I think that is, and I know I like big, physical, fast defenders. So I'm not sure that'll be the back three that I picked, but Santiago Bueno doesn't panic. He keeps it simple. He gives fouls away when he has to. He wins his headers. He's not the fastest or the strongest, but his measured aggression is good. He's a steady Eddie, composed. Ladislav Krejci, very cultured left foot, calm, composed. So when you've got obviously that little bit of madness and pace in Mascara, and it's complemented with two guys who are composed now. So at the back before, I mean, no disrespect to Totti, but if you've got Agbadou, who's having one of his off days, and Totti and Jose Sarr, that's absolute chaos there. But when you bring the composure to relatively calm centre backs, I think we've stumbled across a really nice balance here. Yerson doesn't get really skinned. He's got that bit of housery that gets underneath people's skins. Santiago always seems to get dropped, but never does anything wrong. He's done great. And Ladislav, for me, I mean, I'm not sure we'll keep him next season, but he looks an absolute bargain. I just think that's the most composed and balanced, I think, is the key, Daz.
I'd agree. Composed, that's a good word as well. Yeah.
Daz, while we're still on you, moving on to the wing backs in the form of Hugo Bueno and Jackson Chachwa.
Well, I love Hugo. Obviously,
really improving, I think.
Yeah. I mean, of course, another one. I mean, he played Champions League last season for Feyenoord, but I think sometimes it's difficult when you're one of the wing backs, when you've got again a different back three either side of you every week, and it's all about building up these partnerships, isn't it? So, but he's so much better going forward. Did nothing wrong defensively. I think Chacha was improved defensively, but his one main attribute is pace, and that seems to be the thing. He seems to be reluctant to show anybody. I don't know, the away end, we're getting onto him a little bit at times, thinking he's 25 yards from goal against the fullback. Knock it past him and tack him on and whip it in. And
worst case, you're going to win a corner because he can cross the football.
He seemed reluctant to do that, and it was interesting, wasn't it? And I was surprised that Lima never started on Saturday, because Rob Edwards made a point of saying, Pedro Lima's putting some great crosses over in training. So I think he's on borrowed time, but he's improved defensively. His positional sense is better. But bloody hell, just be a bit braver. Take him on.
Two things on that, Daz. You have to credit Jackson because he's been part of this good run we've been on. I think he's improved. I think it's really two interesting partnerships, because Yerson and Chachwa, I wouldn't want to get into battles with those pair because they will just kick you up in the air. Whereas the other side, Nocky, seems a lot more composed. Now, I don't think this is a coincidence. Ladislav Krejci's coming to the team at left centre back, and we're getting the best out of Hugo Bueno. No disrespect to Totti, you're not going to get them kind of composed passes. You're not going to get them balls down the line to you. For me, Nocky, the balance, particularly on the left-hand side now, you've got a footballer playing behind a footballer. Therefore, we're going to get the best out of Hugo Bueno's talents.
I don't think it's just the balance of it. I think they've got a trust now in each other. I think Agbadou, if you put Agbadou up against Santiago Bueno, they're both best versions of them. You're picking Agbadou, aren't you? But we know this season he's just riddled with errors and riddled with mistakes, and it's almost resulted in the midfielders and the wing backs dropping back 5 or 10 yards. They seem more comfortable to move forward now, and Bueno always seems to be running at his man. He always seems to be in space. Krejci's got that calmness and that ability to kind of drop in when he needs to, and Hugo will drop in behind him if he wants to burst forward. They've got a good relationship. Hugo Bueno, I think, he's much better than I actually thought he was. I didn't think he was quite as good as what we're seeing at the moment.
He's grown the last month as well.
He has grown. Chichu is a massive frustration for me, because the away end we were getting really frustrated because he took his man on once and he butchered him. He never did it again. And even when he's got clear open road ahead of him, he won't commit his man, and he can cross a ball as well. So I don't know why. I don't know if it's a confidence thing or whether he's just doubting his own ability or whatever it is, but he's got so much more that he can offer. He's got the Adama Traore burst of pace, but he just won't use it. It's such a massive weapon. Whereas with a Hugo, he doesn't use his pace. He'll drop a few step overs, and he's comfortable to either cut inside or cross it with his left or strike with his right. He's a level above at the moment. So I do agree. I think Pedro Lima is certainly going to be knocking on the door in the next few weeks.
And credit to Hugo Bueno, by the way, because there's a few games now where he's cut inside and tried to bend one in the far corner. That right-footed top corner sort of bending shot isn't far away. Wolves nearly won it because of him at there. Yeah. Moving on quick, we're in half an hour now. We're absolutely flying. Moving on to the midfield three, Nocky, John Arias, Joe Gomez and Mateus Mane to start with.
Yeah, I think I wasn't very happy initially when Andre came on. But it absolutely worked. I don't think Arias affected the game the way that he perhaps has done in recent weeks and as he did against Shrewsbury. But Gomez was solid. He was really good. Mane it wasn't his best game, but he was always a threat. He was always available. He was always in space. And of course, the goal, he's an absolute work of art. The first touch with the outside of the right boot to take it away from the defender. And then an 18-year-old or 16, whatever he is, just curling that ball around the goalkeeper, the best goalkeeper in the country, and firing it into the bottom corner. We had a brilliant view of it from the away end. And to see his reaction and to see his celebration, it was absolutely magnificent. So he was outstanding in that second half. He was involved in everything good that we did. Gomez and Andre really balanced us out in the second half. They kind of allowed the attacking players to progress, and they could just sit
switching shape, sort of almost allowed Gomez and Andre just to tuck and protect the three centre backs, and it freed up Mane to do what he does best and get more involved with the game.
Yeah, you almost had your back three, and then you had the two Brazilians holding in front of them, and everyone else just go forward and try and get us back in the game. And it worked really well because we were able to push Hugo up a little bit, Stewart up a little bit, although we didn't really utilise his pace. But we were playing 10 yards further forward, and Everton kind of couldn't get out for sort of large periods of that game. And that was due to the tactical switch that I was absolutely completely against when he made it. But it worked perfect for them.
That they've got tactically, doesn't it? The old, what's the phrase about in-game management? That they're identifying stuff, and and sometimes, as we've seen, Andre and Joe Gomez, sometimes when they play together, it's too similar. Other times, like in the second half on Everton, it's just what you need. So it's good that they can identify what they've got, and obviously it's about having the options as well, and a few more players on the bench now they can call upon rather than the cast of Grange Hill, which it had been for a lot of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I know I said it a few times, but I really want to credit Rob because he didn't just stick, well, this worked the last few games. It wasn't working. So John Arias, who I think he's been much improved, he knew what had to happen. He took him off. He put another sort of hardened battler in the midfield, and it just worked. Daz, moving on to the front pair of Tolu and Hwang Hee-chan.
Right, with Wang, I mean, we saw it again at Everton. We saw it again on Saturday as well. He's such a mixed bag, isn't he? And I get really frustrated with him, the amount of cheap possession he gives away. And every time he gives the ball away, it seems to end up in the back of the net these days. But he does offer something different going forward. And I think he's playing a lot more. He's having a lot more impact on games now that he's playing inside a little bit more. We saw it the week before as well against West Ham. And he makes runs that no one else makes. And I think we're playing inside a little bit more than we have been perhaps under the previous manager as well. So, yeah, he's a mixed bag. And I really like Tolu. And I think that, is it any coincidence that now Tolu's in the team holding the ball up, that all of a sudden Strand Larsen looks fitter, stronger, leaner, hungrier? It may be that the transfer window's open as well. I don't know.
We're going to go with option 2, Daz.
It may just be that the kid needed time out of the team as well because his confidence had gone. But he leads the line well, and he misses chances. But and you get the feeling that if we do go down and if he stays, then he could be like a monster next season in the Championship. But I like him, and I just think he's got a real presence up front. And I'm a big fan of him. I'm glad he got his goal at the weekend as well, because I think that's ultimately what he judged on, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, he was on the pitch for 15 minutes, 1 assist, 1 goal. You can't do much more than that, and it's great. And regardless of his, I think it's a question later on, so I won't say that. But I think that wraps up. Quick man of the match. Who was your man of the match, guys? 1 each for that game.
I think just on before that, Daz has touched on a great point with Hwang with the runs that he makes. I think Mane is a better player when Hwang's playing, because Hwang will move into space and he'll give him a little bit of freedom and a little bit of space to play into. If you play Strand Larsen and Tolu together, you haven't got that burst of pace, and Mane's a little bit more compact, whereas with Hwang just bombing on everywhere, it's creating space for him. But to answer your question, man of the match, I'll probably give it Hugo myself. I thought he was really good.
Yeah, I think that's all. Daz, man of the match for you at Everton?
I am going to have to agree with Nocky. I think, so Hugo Bueno.
A hat-trick for Hugo. Who'd have thought it? Everton 1, Wolves 1. This is episode 151 of the Wolves Report with BBC WM's Daz Hale, Mark Knock and myself, Ryan Lester. Shortly after we played Everton, Wolverhampton Wanderers entertained Shrewsbury Town in the 3rd round of the FA Cup, and it was an absolute demolition job. I'm not going to get excited. It was Shrewsbury Town, but let's take our wins. We can get them. Knocky, Wolverhampton Wanderers 6, Shrewsbury Town 1.
it's just nice to win, isn't it? It's nice to win comfortably. I think we're all relatively confident, not just because of our run of form, but because of Shrewsbury's run of form as well. They're in banging trouble, so I thought we'd have too much for them. But you've still got to go and win the game. You've got to earn the right to play, and I thought Wolves were really good. The early goal was very important because it kind of brought them out a little bit, and we were just in full control of the game, even with the penalty, which I don't think was a penalty. It looked like he was outside the box for me, but even after that, I didn't feel like we were in too much trouble. I didn't think they had a goal in open play in them. And it was a case of how many we were going to get. But it was great to see Larson get 3 goals. I've been very critical of him. There could be various reasons why he's kind of found his form, but if he can finish like that, it either helps us or it helps us get him away from the team. Wolf was relatively solid. I thought Doherty, Santiago, Ladislav. It was just a very solid performance, and it's the performance it should have been, really, a Premier League team going against a struggling side like that. But it's nice to get the goals and see the substitutes come on. But I was probably most pleased for Rodrigo Gomez, because he's been through it the last few weeks, and to see him come on, and he's got such an infectious energy about him, the way he plays, the way he just seems like a bubbly personality. So to see him back, scoring, involved, celebrating, it was just nice. So it was a good afternoon, an afternoon we could all go relax and just enjoy the football.
Do you know what was really nice, Daz, as well? I mean, this is when we saw what happened to Crystal Palace. This could have quite easily been a banana skin, but you know what? Wolves were ultimately respectful. They were respectful with the team selection. They were respectful with their application, and they were more than respectful with their performance. For me, I'm proud of that. Yes, you can say it's only Shrewsbury Town, but Wolves took that game very seriously. They didn't take their foot off the pedal, and it was just, as Nocky said, it was nice just to come home with a proper cup performance against a team that you should be beating.
100%, and yeah, I think that's a really valid point you made about, like, oh, it's only Shrewsbury. Well, yeah, it was only Macclesfield, wasn't it? You know what I mean? And it was National League North. The attitude was right, absolutely spot on about the early goal. Hands up, who started to get a bit twitchy at 2-1, thinking, here we go. We thought this was going to be too easy. But the third goal, then when the goalkeeper passed it straight to Strand Larson, after that, it was a question of how many. And I think that's the other point as well now, that the game was won at half-time. They've had a lot of games recently. They could quite easily then have gone, all right, then let's just, tuck in, let's just manage the game. But they could smell blood, and they went for the jugular and went for a group, at Molineux, where it's been starved of anything over the last, year, 18 months, to have now seen 9 goals in 2 matches. Everybody comes away bouncing. I said earlier, there were smiles on the faces with the players. Everybody wanted the ball. It can only be good for confidence. It can only be good for momentum. It can only be it's just feel-good factor for everybody. And again, there was a lot of people there because of the ticketing going for the first time. We had a lot of people taking their children for the first time. So what a memory for those as well who got to see a proper, you might have got a few there who perhaps been for the first time, who perhaps secretly like Manchester City or Liverpool or Arsenal, but they've been to the Molineux, took there by their mum or their dad or whatever, seen that. We might have got a few more long-term fans as well. Who knows?
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyable, Nocky. But regardless of who you play, you can only beat what's in front of you. And I have to credit Wolves. I mean, let's go through them. There were some really good goals. The Ladislav ball down the line, I think that was the first ball into Hwang. The keeper probably shouldn't have come out, but regardless, Hwang's it's a great run. That's what Hwang's good at, finding those channels. And he's put the ball across. And credit, Nocky, it's a lovely finish from Strand Larson.
It is. I mean, it's back-to-back assists for Hwang as well. And again, you can say it's only Shrewsbury, but he's still got to get that ball right. Regardless of who we're playing against, and he has for the second week running. And it was a lovely finish by Larson. He made it look very easy, but it had been very easy to fall on your backside trying to do that. So it was nice for him to get that goal, and his confidence soared after that as well.
Absolutely. Daz, the second goal, again, some intricate play. Credit to Strand Larson. He's dropped in. And Arias came through. Great finish. Yeah,
it was a great touch from him, and the weight of the ball. And again, John Arias, you mentioned that he looks. Again, I've talked about players finding their feet. We're beginning to see over the last few weeks, obviously been playing in a slightly different position as well, that he actually now looks like he's enjoying his football. And I wouldn't have had any confidence in him tucking that ball away a month ago, but he never looked like he was going to miss, did he, on Saturday? So again, that just goes to show with confidence again, doesn't it?
Just one thing about John Arias, Daz, that's interesting for me. In all the games so far this season, I know he's had some stick on this podcast because you pay that money for a player, you're expecting a lot more. this is, for me, that's got someone that's got really frustrated and been all over the place, so desperate to be involved with the game, but leaving the team lopsided. He's in a position now where he can dictate the play. He can have as much ball as he wants in centre midfield. And for me, that's why we're seeing a different version of him.
Yeah, and he's a bit stronger than I thought as well. A little bit more resilient than I thought he might have looked a little bit lightweight, but certainly not. He's not afraid to put the foot in either, is he? So whether it's by accident or not, when that team selection at Old Trafford, when he had to ask Mane and him to play in different positions they hadn't worked on, whether it's a happy accident, I don't know. But he just seems like he's enjoying his football now, and he looks 2 or 3 times the player he did before Christmas.
Nocky, moving on to the third goal. I mean, it's an absolute Sunday League stinker, but credit to Larson. Little touch, roll it in. I mean, it barely made the goal, but that's an absolute howler from the Shrewsbury keeper.
Yeah, I've no idea what he's trying to do there. That ball was just never on, was it? But look, it is a simple finish. It should be a simple finish, but he's a long way out, isn't he? So he hasn't tried to bludgeon it. He's just controlled it into the net, and it was certainly game over at that point. But again, he's got to be in the right place to finish it.
Absolutely. On to the third goal, probably the fourth goal. The best football of the game, Daz. Little 1-2 in midfield. Arias has sort of strongly fed in Strand Larson. Lovely touch, and he's absolutely thumped that in the bottom corner. Beautiful.
Yeah, and again, I keep going back to confidence because, I mean, you look at him when he took that penalty a few weeks ago. He looks absolutely scared of his own shadow. But again, there was absolutely no doubt when he got that ball, you knew where it was ending up. You knew he was going to get his hat trick. And again, so credit to him. And it doesn't matter, again, the opposition you're playing. That's still a great finish. No goalkeeper saves that, even if you've been playing, in the Premier League. It's just a great finish.
Yeah, it's a great finish. Moving on to the fifth goal, Nocky, just fell nicely for you. You chuffed for Rodrigo Gomez. I want to credit Tolo here as well, because if many strikers at that point in the game might be trying to sneak a goal in for themselves, but he looked up, simple little pass, squared. Rodrigo touch, bang, 5-1.
Yeah, lovely strike in the build-up as well from Fer Lopez that's hit the post. Just good all-round play, wasn't it? It would have been very easy for Toller to swipe at it. Played it into Rodrigo. He could have tried to hit it first time and swiped. He took a touch and buried it. Really pleased for him. And he really enjoys scoring goals as well. It doesn't matter who we're playing. He scored one at Bristol City last year, and it was right in front of us, and he was fist pumping. He was absolutely loving it. So he's just a player who loves to play football, and it's great to see his reaction when he scores.
Last but not least, as Tolo, who we're both delighted for, we're all delighted for him coming on. This was probably the front to back move of the game. You give Mane, I mean, it's not been talked about enough. That pass from Mane with the outside of his foot, he's bent it down the line. Fair play to Moller Wolf. He's played a whole game from wing back. He's still bursting forward. He's timed it with perfection. He's squared Tolo. For me, that is an absolute clinical Premier League goal.
Yeah, unfortunately, the stadium announcer thought it was Rodrigo Gomez again, didn't he? He had a Western Superman. But yeah, terrific. But again, it just goes to show that this was an added time, weren't it? But they hadn't down tools. They weren't. They were still hungry for more and more and more. And yeah, so it was just a great day. So it's just terrific to see everybody smiling and coming out and bouncing out the ground. And I think the last time they scored 6 was in that 6-4, wasn't it, against Rotherham? And they were
Rotherham in League One, yeah.
In League One about 15 years ago. So
that was a great game. That was. I think was it Ricketts who bent that one in the top corner just after
McDonald got the 6 here.
It was Kieran Agard got a hat trick for Rotherham.
He got a hat trick.
Wolves, who'd been on loan at Rotherham, hadn't they, earlier in the season from wherever we signed him from. So that was mental, wasn't it, that day?
There was nearly as many pitch invasions as goal, wasn't there? I know everyone came on the pitch from me at the side netting as well. It was a very strange game.
David got promoted. It finished Wolverhampton Wanderers 6, Shrewsbury Town 1. I think there's various candidates for man of the match, but if you've got an assist and a goal, it probably has to go to Jurgen Strand Larsen. Nocky?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be harsh if you score a hat trick and don't get man of the match, wouldn't it?
It would be a bit harsh. Daz?
JSL.
What?
JSL, that's Jurgen Strand Larsen. I'm trying to make it a bit more rock and roll.
I thought Daz was being poorly then. I thought we had to abandon the show. This is episode 151. Daz Haley isn't ill. Mark Knocker, myself, Ryan Lester. Our reward for the win against Shrewsbury Town is a nice trip to Grimsby Town at the weekend of the 14th of February. Fancy a little romantic weekend in Grimsby, Nocky? Don't mind if I do.
Yeah, I'm well chuffed with this draw. I always want lower league teams in the FA Cup because it's great to go back to some of the grounds I used to go to when I was a kid. And I tweeted about this last time I was here. I think it was 3-1 or 4-1, but Steve Bull scored a hat trick. First game of the season. And he scored 3. But I remember the hat trick goal was just exquisite. It rolled off the defender and drilled it bottom corner. We had fish and chips on the front before we went in the ground, and they were magnificent. And then we watched Bully slapping a hat trick. It was a fantastic day. So yeah, I'm well chuffed with this draw. I'd much rather play a Grimsby Town or a team like that than play a Liverpool or a City or someone like that. It'll be a really good day.
Let's hope you're saying that on the 15th of February. Daz, obviously you want a lower league team because you should be winning. But again, this is all about mentality, application and respect. Wolves approach it again like they do the Shrewsbury game, and there's a real good opportunity. Wolves are in the 5th round.
I mean, let's not forget these have beaten Manchester United there this season. And so they'll be well up for it because they'll be thinking, well, if we can beat Man United, we can beat Wolves. So it'll be absolutely bouncing. But ultimately, again, you can ask for more. You could have asked for them at home, but ultimately you can't ask for much more than a team from League Two. So it will be all down to Wolves. And I was saying to you off air before, and I mean, I'm sure I've seen us go there in the FA Cup once and lose with a goal direct from a corner. I've had some horrible days there. But when we won the League Cup in 1980, the last time we won a major trophy,
here we go.
We had Grimsby and we drew at home. The replay we drew away, so they ended up having a second replay at Derby County, and we beat them 2-0 on the road to Wembley. Is that an omen, I wonder? Probably not, but I thought I'd throw it out there anyway.
I mean, I believe as well the last two times Wolves have played Shrewsbury Town in the FA Cup, they made the semi-final on both occasions. And the last fun fact, Grimsby v Wolves, Wolverhampton Wanderers v Grimsby Town hold the highest ever attendance at Old Trafford. Get that down you as well. As if things weren't bad enough for Man United, Grimsby and Wolves have taken over. Let's move on to some questions and have a look at our faces. There we go, a bit more close up now. Sorry about that, everybody. Question from Greg here. Evening, Greg. Greg says, now Rodrigo is fit, do you find a starting place for him? He's so infectious as well as his ability. This is a real good point, Daz. This is a guy that I think Nocky sort of articulated it really well. Then this is a guy that just loves playing football. He loves scoring goals. The relentless pressing. For me, I don't think he's the most naturally talented footballer, but his infectious attitude to press, it sets the tone for the rest of the teams. For anybody else, he's pressing. He's reacting. I'm not surprised he gets injured too often because the guy is just all energy.
Yeah, he affects games as well, doesn't he? Quite often, you know. I think he scored a couple of goals at the start of the season as well. And you even think back to Vitor Pereira's first match. I think he scored one or two that day. I'm a big fan of him. I think it's about having options, isn't it? I mean, he could obviously play further up the field. He could play wing back. We talked about Pedro Lima being able to push Chachua on the other side as well. So I'm a big fan of him, and I'm sure he'll very much be in his plans. But I think the fact now that we're starting to have either ors when it comes to positions in the team is just another step in the right direction. And it'll be interesting to see at the end of January how many we've got as well.
Absolutely. Nocky, again, this is a lad, for me personally, when I've seen him play, I think he scored the goals that day at Leicester on Vitor's first game was at left wing back. Hugo's playing really well now. I don't really see that. But with the way that Wolves are playing now and breaking quickly, could he play further at the pitch as well as right wing back?
He could do. I like him at left wing back. I think that's probably his best position because he likes to cut in from the left hand side and support the attack. He did it. It was at Leicester actually when we beat him 3-0 last home win before West Ham, and he broke past Cunha from that position and scored. I don't think he's quite as effective on the right hand side, but potentially you could play him further up. But then who are you going to take out of that? It's going to have to probably be, is it Hwang, and then you drop him a little bit deeper in, or push Mane up. You risk messing with your attacking line. But I think the fact he's come back from an injury, I don't think he'll be in any rush to get him starting games. It gives you a real option and a bit of pace from the bench when you're getting towards that 65, 70 minute mark. So it's just a great option to have.
He's got a spark, hasn't he? He's got energy.
Yeah.
Gives something different.
Greg, thank you for being part of the latest Wolves report. Let's have a look at this one. Ben asks, if we had Rob Edwards, Rui and Jeff had gone at the start of the season, so do you lads think we'd be at the bottom now? I mean, hypothetical question, and it's a real difficult one to ask. But if you want me to ask your question, Ben, no, I don't believe Wolves. Would Wolves be in a relegation battle? Probably. But would they be cut adrift and looking like they're relegated at Christmas? Probably not. Nocky?
No, I don't think we would. I think we'll be in and around it with the quality of the squad we've got. We certainly wouldn't be pushing for European football or in the upper echelons of the league, but I think we'd be certainly in touch and maybe just above the drop zone at this point. But unfortunately, it's hypothetical, isn't it? We know where we are.
Daz, we could only judge on what we've got now. I think there were some terrible mistakes made. I don't know if all responsibility was handed over to particular people in the transfer window, and it's absolutely hampered Wolves getting no experience. Some of these players might be coming good, but it might be too late. But
but the thing is that they would still have had, if they'd have had to start the season with this group of players, all of them were wet behind the ears and totally inexperienced, then who knows? But all you can say is, I mean, obviously it's taken Rob Edwards several weeks to get a result, but you can just see it now, can't you? So I don't know how many points they would have or they wouldn't have back then, but at least now you can see that they're starting to move in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben, thank you for being part of this latest Wolves report. Something similar in the show was mentioned, but I think it's important to bring it again. Cole, since we've been on this mini unbeaten run in the league, what is the difference you've seen in the side? Now, I know you mentioned this a bit earlier on, Daz, so Nock, you want to get your take on it as well. I think I know you're a big fan of saying making your own luck. I think Wolves have made their own luck. They've been glorious in defeat at Arsenal, glorious in defeat at Villa. There's been at Liverpool as well. But they've just turned the screw a little bit more and made their own luck. And there's no fluke in these games, these 1-1s and these wins. Wolves have deserved what they've got so far in the last run of games.
Yeah, I think he stumbled on a system as well and a personnel change by having to play Arias in midfield and Mane playing where he is and then bringing Tolo into it. I think the three centre-halves have been more settled and we've cut out those silly mistakes that we used to make. We're not so fussed about playing it around the back. We can lump it when we need to and just get rid of the ball. So I think any manager coming into the situation we were in, your main objective is just make us hard to beat, stop the soft goals, stop that soft underbelly that we had. And it's taken him a while to find those solutions and to get things more balanced, I think. And he's had to have a look at some of the players. He's had to figure out his best 11. He's realised that Hugo's his best left wing back. He's realised that Tolu, this moment in time, is his best centre forward. And he's finding his feet. And he's almost had to lay the tracks while the train's coming, hasn't he? Because of when he came in and the situation we were in. And it's took him some time, but he's made us hard to beat. He's made us more solid. We carry more of a threat going forward. We're a lot more organised and more balanced than we were. And I think, as we've kind of mentioned, Jeff going, I think, gave everyone a lift. Rui Silva coming in has given us a bit of experience. He was really, really powerful under Nuno and very effective. Yeah. So those little things have all added up to us not getting out of this situation, but hopefully putting a little bit more respectability on the league table by the end of the season.
So situations create opportunities, and the situation at Old Trafford does force Rob to find a new set of tactics and sort of shoehorn people in. And that's sometimes when people get their opportunities, and that's sometimes when things work. And it's worked, and Wolves are taking it.
It could have been a happy accident, because of the late fitness tests that were failed, and they actually had to ask Mane and Arias to do something that they hadn't worked on. But it has worked, but again, since then they have tweaked it again, and it's not like that's what we're going to do. So I think that, I agree that we just seem a lot more solid now, really, and not committing so many mistakes. Because it's been that situation, hasn't it? I wonder whether the one turning point might have been the Jose Sarr save from the Mosquera header at Old Trafford, when he headed it over him and he somehow managed to claw it out. Because up to that point this season, every single mistake has ended up in the back of the net. Every shot from 25 yards has flown in the top corner. Every shot that's took a deflection has managed to take one or two deflections and go in the net. And I just wondered then, because that would have been the story of our season, wouldn't it? That would have been the absolute epitome of our season. Mm-hmm. The fact he managed to claw it out, and it just feels like the tide just slightly beginning to turn now, hopefully.
Yeah, Cole, thank you for being part of this latest Wolves report. Let's do a few more questions before we talk about the game against Newcastle. Paul talks about the transfer window and says, do we sell certain players while we can demand top dollar in this window? I'll answer this one. Wolves aren't going to get the same money when they're a championship team as they are a Premier League team for the better players, for the most valuable assets. And I would probably, the most likely ones of those in January, you would say Strand Larsen. I'd say he's almost nailed to go in January, and that transfer, sort of that hat trick, will put him in the window more. He needs regular football. He looks like he needs a move. Do you know what? I'm not saying he's redeemed himself, because I think he's been stroppy, but I think he'll go. Wolves get now probably somewhere between 30 and 40, I'd say. They don't get that in the Championship. I think if a big bid comes in for either one of the Brazilians, I think they take that. What do we get there? 30 plus? Do we get in the Championship? I'm not sure that we do. Again, I think there has to be some clever business decisions without absolutely decimating the fan base and the team. If you can drag in 100 million from a couple of those players, maybe 80, 90, 100 million, I think they'll do it. There was talk of Arias, but he looks settled again now. I'll be really surprised if Agbadou is a Wolves player come the end of January. I'm pretty sure he'll be gone. I think him and Strand Larsen, the ones nailed, and maybe throw in one more on top of that as well. Daz, any more to add on top of that?
I think it depends on, we're in a situation in the real world where if a club comes in and makes a satisfactory bid for any of those players, they go. But that then I'm imagining that they've got the ducks in a row, and that will then trigger any money that comes in, will immediately trigger them to go straight into the market to go for targets that they want. I mean, I know that people made a big thing when, I asked Rob Edwards a few weeks ago about having to sell before he can buy. He said pretty much, yeah. But Matt Jackson said the same to Mike Taylor when Jeff Shee came in, that we will be able to generate the funds. So that's where we're at right now. But I think in reality that if somebody puts in a big bid for one of our players, particularly another Premier League club, then we'll take it. And as Rob Edwards said, I don't want anyone here who doesn't want to be here. I really want to be here. I'll give up a good job to be here. And I want players who are desperate to be here. And if they don't want to be here, bye.
Yeah, absolutely. Any more to add, Nocky, on Paul's question?
No, I think you both articulated it perfectly. If you don't want to be here, then anyone can go, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. I don't think I'm not precious on any of these players. I'd like Tolu to stay. Obviously, you want Mane to stay until the end of the season. Then I think there'll be some problems for us. But anybody else, if you don't want to be at this football club, then pack your bags and get out. We've seen what happens with Strand Larsen when you kind of not force players to stay, but when you don't give players what they want, you see what the impact can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, thank you for being part of the latest show. We've got time for one more question. Should we go on to the game? Yeah, let's go on to the Newcastle game. Wolverhampton Wanderers play Newcastle United at Molineux for the Sky 2 o'clock kickoff on Sunday afternoon. Newcastle United play tomorrow night against Man City in the first leg of the League Cup final, and then the following Wednesday they have a Champions League game as well. Sort of a thorn between two roses, should I say, there for Wolverhampton Wanderers. But Daz, Nocky, this is a massive opportunity. It's a Premier League game. We've seen recently at big games, at Liverpool, at Arsenal, at Villa, these aren't teams that were blowing Wolves out of the water. There's an opportunity against a good team, but against a team that's just played extra time the weekend. They've got a League Cup semi-final. They've got a European game. Guys, I see this as a massive opportunity, and I'm not writing us off. I'm not getting excited, but I look at those fixtures and think, you know what? There'll be a tired team there, and there's a chance for Wolverhampton Wanderers.
You know what? Unfortunately, I'm using my season ticket Sunday as well, so I'm looking forward to it for that reason. But I am actually looking forward to it, and I think that's the point, that for so long now, it's been a case of going out of duty, it's because it's what you do, and you've lost that little bit of you just go along, trudge along, expect to get beaten, go home again. When we might get beaten, but I'm going along with a bit of expectancy and a bit of excitement, and I think that will be, you'll feel that in the stadium as well. So it is a massive opportunity, and if they can maintain the performance levels that we've seen in recent weeks, then I think it will give them a real good game.
Absolutely. Nocky, this is a big chance. Newcastle are a really good side. They've got some fantastic footballers. They've got pace. As Daz says, they've got Barnes that always seems to score, but they're not unbeatable. We saw they've played a lot of football recently. They've had a lot of emotional, long games, and I do think that will play into Wolves' hands come Sunday afternoon.
They give you a chance as well. They do concede goals, and they're quite open defensively, and they will overcommit, especially with the wide players. They'll probably look at us and think that's the game they can cruise, whereas the other ones they've got to put more attention to. So if they come to us with kind of a "we'll just turn up and beat them" mentality, then they could end up getting the backside slapped. So I don't know. It's a difficult game. They've got some really fabulous players, haven't they? They're a good balanced squad, but they can go a little bit gung ho. And my expectation is they'll try and kill the game off by half time and then rest some of the players. So I think they'll start frantically and pretty quickly. And if we can weather that storm and get through the first 15 minutes, I think you'll see Wolves grow into the game. But they're not unbeatable.
So here's one then. Who starts as the 9? Does Tolu in place? Strand Larson, who nearly went there, does he start now? He got a hat-trick.
Yeah, I don't think you can't start. Tolu has been instrumental in Wolves starting to get points and performances, because Strand Larson got a great hat-trick on Saturday. No offence, I'd have probably got one on Saturday. No offence again. But let's face it, Strand Larson has been having no impact in Premier League games. He's not been holding the ball up. He's not been winning headers. He's not been involved in games. Tolu has got getting Wolves just by being a pain in the arse. He's getting Wolves higher at the pitch. He's linking the play. He's causing problems. He's allowing Wolves to get out ball and the ball's not coming back. Tolu has to start all day long for me, Knocker.
It's the impact of not starting him as well, because if we all think that Strand Larson's probably going to go, and then you're Tolu and you get dropped for this guy because he's had one good game, doesn't send you a great message, and it could cause him to have a little bit of frustration himself. I think he starts the game, Tolu, for me. Larson starts on the bench, but I'm more comfortable with Larson coming on now because maybe he's got a little bit of his form back. So he doesn't start the game, but he gives us a better option from the bench than he has been for the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Absolutely. There's a couple of other questions there. I mean, for me, I think it looks like the team that probably started against Everton. I mean, they're very strong in midfield. They have Joe Linton, they've got Bruno Guimaraes, they've got some really, really good players in centre midfield. So that's the area we need to look at. I think, Daz, with all due respect to Matt Doherty, I think Mosquera has to come in because of their pace. I think Mosquera comes back in. I think Hwangi has to start. The only questions in the midfield, does he start Arias or does he start Andre?
He might go Andre. He might go Andre because of the threat and the reasons you've just mentioned in midfield. So I wouldn't be overly surprised if Andre starts over Arias.
And then you start Mane in the 10.
Yeah. Because otherwise you've got 2 kind of flair players and only 1 real holder, haven't you? And you could get overrun. So I'm not saying he will, but I wouldn't be surprised if Andre doesn't start that one with Gomez.
Physicality in the middle of the park, I think.
Yeah. You don't want to lose that battle, do you? You lose that battle against Newcastle, you lose the game.
Yeah, it's an interesting one as well. But the one for me that there's a big question mark will be over Jackson Chachwa. Will he be tempted to put Matt Doherty there? It's going to be too soon for Pedro Lima, or will there be a temptation for Rodrigo Gomez? I think it's too soon for the reason we didn't see more Lima on Saturday. The guy's had no football all season. You can't just throw him into a Premier League game or a cup game. Rodrigo Gomez, again, he'd run all day. He needs to be protected from himself. So for me, he'll be very much an impact sub for now. I still think it's Jackson for this game. As much as I like Doc and he does okay, I don't think you can play him at wing back. I think we've seen the last few games at wing back, as clumsy and as unreluctant to run Chachwa is, he gives you that outlet of pace. You need that pace, and it sort of balances it with Hugo on that side. So as much as I'd like to say Pedro Lima or Rodrigo, I don't think they're anywhere near it. For me, Daz, I think it has to be Chachwa again.
But at least he ain't going to be Keanu Hoover. Praise the Lord. That's a good bit of business straight away. Yeah, and I think that, I mean, obviously there's the experience of Doherty, which does make a difference. But I think with Chacho, I said earlier, he's defended better recently. I know we're still frustrated with what he hasn't done going forward. Although, of course, they've got another 8 days working on him and on the others on the training ground before that game. So maybe they could just get it in him to be a little bit more positive. So, but at least now there are, I said earlier, those options. Team isn't picking itself anymore now. There are a few either-ors, which can only be good, can't it, really?
Well, you look, I mean, again, no disrespect to Shrewsbury. Moller Wolf, good game, option. Pedro Lima, Rodrigo Gomez, Fer Lopez that came on. Again, he had all, if you give that guy time, he will cut a team apart, but you don't get time in the Premier League. And Strand Larson, all of a sudden, that bench looks mobile. Yeah. It looks like there's an impact in there. It looks like there's legs in there. So if you are up against a team that it's 0-0 and Newcastle are tired, you've got an opportunity to go and press that team and try and win the game. So for me, I do think, I agree with you, Nocky. I don't think he'll leave Andre out. I think he'll want the 2 and he'll probably start Mane in the 10, which is hard on Arias because I think he's been playing really well recently. But again,
But he gets the last half an hour then, doesn't he, if needs be? So
Yeah.
that's what it's about, isn't it? So
yeah,
It's not an 11 anymore, is it? It's a proper squad game now because of the way football's played. I think you're right about Chichura as well. I think he'll play because he'll want the outball. He'll want that potential outball. Doherty can play there, but if he plays there, he's going to sit a little bit deeper, which is going to invite their wing backs and a Harvey Barnes in particular onto you, which is not what you want. You play Jackson Chichura, you maybe put a little bit of doubt in their mind, and they drop a little bit deeper. And as much as he doesn't like to run, if you can play that ball over the top, and that's where I think the space will be
pass at Villa Park. When he goes there, that
Yeah.
diagonal pass is on again and again and again.
But if you look at the way Newcastle play, Barnes will pull in. He'll pull in from that wide area. There'll be space behind him to play into. So if you can get Chichura into that space on a break and play it over the top, you give yourself a chance. So I think he'll start the game.
But isn't it nice? A couple of wins, cup win, league win, couple of draws. We're debating who should start. It's not just an 11. We know who's starting. Players are picking up form. Players are enjoying their football.
And that's why it's important now. They build on it, and it doesn't just become like, in 2 weeks' time, everyone's got their head in their hands again. That there will be bumps in the road, there will be defeats, but from now to the end of the season, we need to see this upward curve now. We need to see progress. And that's, most people will take that one. And wherever we end up at the end of that, fine. But as long as we can see that we're improving.
Absolutely. I think as well, Daz, people, and rightly so, because he'd lost every single game, but the trust and belief in Rob Edwards is really growing. You've seen, I think there's been tactically astute. I think he's made tweaks in games that's made a difference. We're not only winning a couple of games, we're putting on some good performances. There's some decent football. We look organised. Something has definitely changed, and the trust in Rob Edwards, he deserves that, and he deserves the backing. So, like you, I'm very much excited about Saturday. Again, I might get egg on my face, but it's nice to be looking forward to going to a game and thinking I'm going out of duty, as opposed to I'm really looking forward to this. It's almost prediction time. Just a quick thank you to those 1,122 live listeners on the show so far. Also, thank you to all of those catching up on X, Facebook, and Spotify, as well as those watching live.
And your OnlyFans site as well, Ryan.
I've had to close that down. New government law, Daz. I only had 2 subscribers, and that's Tyler and Nocky, so that's out the window due to the putting them both on furlough last year. Let's move on to the predictions. Nocky, don't do it before the drum roll, please. Nocky, your first scorer and score prediction for Newcastle, please.
I've got my first sneak here, 2026.
Get in.
I'm going to go 3-1 Wolves. Tolu with the opener, I think, and then we'll finish it in injury time.
I'm excited. Daz, Hale, hang on a second.
3-0 Newcastle. Not really. 1-0 Wolves. 1-0 Wolves, Hugo Bueno.
See, what you're all forgetting here, guys, and I hammer him every week because he annoys me, he gives goals away. Hwang always scores against Newcastle. This is the day. Maybe not. I'm going to go 1-0 Wolves and Hwang Hee-chan. This has been episode 151 of the Wolves Report. Thank you to BBC WM's Daz Howell. You can join him on weekdays for the football phone in 6 till 7. Also for midweek games and weekend games, being the host of the Football and Sports Show. And also thank you to our club captain, Nocky. Nocky, please don't unsubscribe at the Wolves.